Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
I really appreciate your participation with the Build Out live stream every Wednesday at noon Eastern Daylight Time. The stream will be starting in just 1 minute. In the meantime, let me take this opportunity to talk to you about the live streaming studio that I use to stream Build Out with Jim Kunkel. StreamYard is a live streaming browser-based studio that allows you to interview guests, share your screen, and much more. With StreamYard, you can multi-stream directly to your website, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and for those who qualify, live stream here on LinkedIn. So now's the time to start live streaming. In the event post and on the video description is a referral link for a $10 credit when you become a paid subscriber to StreamYard. Today on Build Out, my guest is James Laurain, who is a professional technical copywriter. James is here to speak about the importance of copywriting in the age of digital transformation. Okay, let's get the conversation with James started. Hey, James, welcome to Build Out.
Hey, I just read that. Ask James very tough questions. What's going on with
that? I'm not setting you up. Seriously, I'm not setting you up. We're going to be talking today about the excitement of technical copywriting. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you today.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever heard anyone use excitement and technical copywriting in the same sentence before, so that's a good one.
Well, definitely important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's absolutely important. I think it's funny how few people, though, recognize what copywriting is. And I think it's because copywriting is one of the few things that you only notice when it's done really poorly.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, James, before we get into our conversation on the live stream today, if you could do me a favor, and for the viewers too, if you could provide your professional background, tell us who you are, a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, no problem. So I started my professional life as an electrical engineer, actually. And I think we could go hours on this discussion, but basically my mom said I should. And I think that's how a lot of people make their college and career decisions, right? My mom said, you're good at math and science, be an engineer. I thought, well, great. So I did 10 years of that. I did engineering, medical devices, everything from manufacturing to design, and realized that I really don't like being stuck in a cube all day. But that's when I got my first experience talking to actual customers. So I would talk to the doctors and users of our medical devices. And man, I just saw what amazing value there is talking to like a real live human customer, which kind of got me into sales as a path. So as a path to get from engineering to marketing is super hard. I know a lot of people who are trying it. One issue is people think you're an engineer, so why, how you can't be good at marketing, right? I just tell them I was really bad at engineering, so that's how that all balances out. But anyway, so I transitioned into sales. I did semiconductor and electronic sales, and then the benefit of sales is I actually talk to human customers a lot, which I think improves the marketing side. So I originally, and this is behind the scenes fun stuff, but I've said this before, I actually tried to open a marketing strategy company. It was a gigantic failure. And I love broadcasting that because there are a lot of people who are trying things and they do fail and they get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. I found out why it failed. I stopped and pivoted. I relaunched as a copywriter about a year and a half ago and have had phenomenal success since then. So it's all pitching, positioning, and I can answer questions if people have specifics of that as well, if that's where the conversation goes. So to summarize really quick, 10 years of electrical engineering. I have a degree, magna cum laude in electrical engineering. Then sales for, probably 7 years now, and then specifically copywriting for about 2.
Very impressive, very impressive. So for today's agenda, we're going to cover the importance of copywriting. Copywriting versus technical writing, what's the difference? I'm going to do a review on 5 essential skills for a copywriter, and then who needs technical copywriters. So as the scroll says below, please post comments and ask James very, very tough questions on technical copywriting. Let's see, I might have a comment here or a question. Let's see here. In person is always best. We have just had to make some adjustments. Definitely. Definitely. So, James, let's go ahead and let's start our first conversation related to, what is the importance of a copywriting? Why is
Yep.
it so critical and so important?
Yep. It's very funny to me, the impression that people have on copywriting. I think a lot of people are confused because they don't know what copywriting is. This is, I think, a problem with a lot of actual copywriters, is they assume that people know what a copywriter is, right? So a lot of business owners and things don't know, and copy in and of itself is kind of a weird word because it sounds like you're not creating new things, right? You're copying. It's easy to get confused. So how I define it and how I differentiate it, there's copywriting, there's content writing. Copywriting is the short bursts of text. I'll put it that way. Something in my mind, it's less than like 3,000 words. That's focused on your web page, your homepage, your ads, all that stuff, as opposed to content writing, which is I do blogs, but a lot of longer form blogs and ebooks and things. It's important because if you look at the buyer journey today, they talk about how it's 60 to 80% or something. I don't know the exact number of buyers make a buying decision before even talking to a salesperson. So what are they doing with that time? Well, they're reading things, right? They're reading about you. They're looking for reviews on you. They're looking at your website. They're looking at all this stuff. So that's where the copywriter fits in. They are all of those things that the customer is previewing and looking at before they actually talk to your salesperson. So that is your make or break moment, in my opinion, and why copywriting is so darn important.
Yeah, and when you really think about this, it really takes a lot of skill because you're trying to have attention grabbing, headlines, the hook points, emotional anchors, and other aspects of it. What amount of creativity do you need to have to become a copywriter?
There's a really good argument about that because creativity can turn some heads, but it's often not as effective as clarity. So it is kind because you can lose people in the mess. So it's funny. I don't think you necessarily need to be creative. The most important conversations I have with people when I start doing jobs with them and when I interview with them is like, what is actually the most important like differentiator or feature of your product, and what do your customers actually care about? And as close as I can make those two line up is good. So that's where the creativity is. It's not in making some like outlandish, crazy headline, clickbait, something like that. It's really about clarity and how what you offer fits with what you have. So I have a quick example. There was a company that I was working with that is a very, very small regional provider of a specific thing. They compete against larger companies that can do the same thing, right? This is not an uncommon story. Uh, their headline literally, I just made it 24/7 support for this, the service they fulfilled for small to mid-sized businesses in this region. I mean, that's not creative. It's actually kind of long. I made a post about this as a headline. It's a really long headline. It's not flowery and fancy and go conquer tomorrow kind of broad stuff. But if you are a small to mid-sized business and you are in that region, well, it speaks exactly like perfectly to you, and that's the goal, I think. So it's not really creativity as far as coming up with absolutely crazy stuff. It is as far as a headline type approach, it is about how do I make this certain thing appeal to this exact customer in the most clear and direct way where they understand I can benefit them.
So when it comes to the power of persuasion and copywriting, are you going for emotion or are you going for logic or are you doing a combination of all the above, I would say?
It depends. I do not lean heavy logic. I would warn against that, and the reason why I mention that is because there's the old saying, and it's been shown through MRI scans and all that. We make decisions based on emotion and we justify them with logic. So the problem I have is when you announce a number, it's usually a red flag to me. When you put a number, you're up for comparison now. So an example really quick. If you had a car and you get 42 miles per gallon and you list 42 miles per gallon, our car is incredible. Well, you are until someone comes out with 43 miles per gallon and then you're not. So you need to keep people from waking up the analytic side of their brain too quickly. So therefore, I focus on logic as far as like this is the only solution that has X or something if it is truly unique. Um, but I try to pull at the emotion of what's the biggest need, what's the biggest pain point, what's the biggest, something like that.
Excellent. I can see why Kat had posted clarity beats creativity every time. Don't ask people to think. Having people think that can probably get you in trouble sometime, I would imagine.
Yep.
So when it comes to obviously the aspect of technical copyright, a lot of times with technical topics, technical products, technical material, it tends not to be real exciting. How do you make it exciting with copyright?
I have found that everything is exciting. You kind of asked on what's the most important thing for a copywriter. Is it to, you mentioned logic or interest, or is it
Yeah.
creativity or is it clarity as far as logic and stuff? And I think the most important thing that you can have as a copywriter is be genuinely curious about everything. So I actually wrote something a while ago about a coding. I don't know if that was for you or somebody else, but it was basically the electric charge particle. So I worked in a powder coating booth, like powder
Mm-hmm.
coating cars before, and the fact that you would charge the powder as it shot out of the nozzle, like electrically charge it, and then you electrically charge the product that you're trying to paint to the opposite polarity. So like the powder like sticks and conforms because it's like static charge, like that could be boring if you want it to be, or it could be like incredibly exciting because how the heck did they figure that out? Who did it the first time? How did they do that? How does this, what does it let me do? So I think being genuinely curious, I haven't found too many products that bored me yet, but part of it's finding that uniqueness and what's exciting about it, and what would your target prospect be excited about. I was talking to somebody about payment terminals yesterday, which sounds incredibly boring, but if you're a customer looking for payment terminals, that can actually be really exciting, right? It depends on the way you frame it and the way you present it. But if someone's genuinely interested, again, anything can be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I work in the corrosion industry, so rust, watching rust happen, that kind of is very interesting to me. Obviously, trying to mitigate it and deal with it. So I guess it's the eye of the user, what's going to be interesting, what's going to be exciting for them. And I've a lot of the posts that you put on LinkedIn, you do point out where inefficiencies and effectiveness can really creep into copyright, and that you need to make sure that you have a qualified copywriter. Later on, I think we will be talking a little bit about, we're going to be definitely talking about who needs a technical copywriter. We'll cover some of that, but as a kind of a preview, what are some of the things that people would want to look for when they have technical copywriting and they need to find a resource or a firm or whoever?
Yep. My red flag, or the one thing, and again, this is just general copywriting tips for a company, for anybody, is you want to be the go-to in somebody's mind for a specific thing. Always, right? So whenever someone has a specific problem, they think of you. A lot of trouble with companies is that they go really broad. We can do everything, right? Well, then they never think of you, because if you can do everything, you don't pop into my head. Even a giant company like Amazon is not known for everything. They're known for, I just need to order it quickly and I want it at my house tomorrow. Amazon, right? So from my standpoint, when someone says my customers don't get what I'm trying to do, my potential customers, prospects, nobody understands what I'm trying to do, or VCs don't understand what my product is or why it's useful, that's when they would benefit from having a technical copywriter. So the joke on LinkedIn, my headline is I can explain high tech to my grandma. And I get people who reach out and they say that, oh my gosh, my grandma has no idea what I'm doing. They don't know what my product is at all. And that's how I get to work with a lot of startups and founders. So the challenge is, it's called the curse of creativity, or sorry, the curse of knowledge. When you are so close to your product that you can't remember what it's like to not know it. The better phrase is, you can't read the label of the jar that you're inside, if you've heard that one. A lot of founders, they know their technology, they know their product, they know everything super well, and they know it too well, so that they lose the ability to express it to somebody who hasn't heard of it before. And this is where another freelancer is fantastic, pulling in freelancer, because you have to teach me what you do. So it causes you to slow down. I ask dumb questions, right, which are the same dumb questions that your customers are asking. We figure out based on based on your current website ads, whatever you're broadcasting to everybody, we figure out what's missed in the messaging. Why do I have those questions? Why are they not answered? That kind of thing. And then we're able to create a more cohesive and more direct yet creative, clear message to those customers. So to me, again, the red flag is if somebody says, I don't understand, my customers don't understand me. Nobody understands why this is valuable. They don't get it. Well, that's when I like to be called.
Oh, very good, very good. So let's move on to copywriting versus technical writing. What's the difference? I'm going to read this. I wrote this down and doing some of the research for today's topic. In most cases, when a company needs a technical writer, it usually means they want a copywriter who's well versed in a type of technology that the company's selling. Unfortunately, very few copywriters have enough background in technology to truly understand how to market the company's technical products in a compelling way. Is that research I found, is that correct?
Yes. I I found that I actually created a new category, maybe. So let me break that down really quickly. So I think people see technical writing as like user manuals, right? Which I've joked that user manuals have a ton more value than almost any other company's physical marketing, but nobody reads them, right? Because that means you have the product, you have it in hand, you're trying to figure out what to do, and people throw them out. Anyway, uh, technical writing, like true technical writing, is like user manuals. Copywriting is typically what you're talking about, bringing the passion, trying to swing someone over to your specific product, things like that. I like to sit in the middle, but more towards the copywriting side. So I'm not writing user manuals, but the difference is for technical type products. So I like a lot of the SaaS software as a service and newer things. Um, Trying to create that same emotional attachment, excitement that people have with their iPhone to a technical product. So I kind of define it a little bit differently. And I've had some people reach out because they're trying to figure out, are you user manual or are you like fluff? For me, it's a good way to weed out B2C. I've done B2C, but that's not my specialty. And focus on the type of products I like, which are the more complex, harder to understand type products. And I think I'll break it down really quickly, just something that was kind of unique in the transition from engineering to copywriting. And this is a little bit more of my background, but at least help some people understand how I got here. I was an electrical engineer. I married a lady who's an accountant, not an electrical engineer by any means, not technical by any means. Her family is wonderful, but they are also not technical. So I was trying to fulfill one of the most basic human needs, which is being able to talk about your job to your spouse. Most people get home and they want to talk about what they did. What did you do today? Well, but I had no ability to, because all of the things I was working on were incredibly technical. I was probing motor controllers to figure out why current faults weren't happening and things like that. So I had to learn how to break down what I was doing, those highly technical things, into things that my family could understand. So some people have the illusion that I became a copywriter overnight. I did not. I spent 10 years trying to figure out how to explain some of the most complex electrical theory to my accountant wife, who I love dearly, but has no technical ability. Right. So that 10 years of knowledge of I understood the detail down to the component on the circuit board. I am trying to explain it to somebody that's non-technical in a way that will hold their attention and not put them to sleep at the dinner table with me. That evolution is what brought me kind of to where I am today. So I hope that helps with the understanding between true technical writing. Like true technical writing is in my mind anyway, is writing technical, like feature-driven stuff for the technical user. Right? I have the lawnmower, I have the user manual. How do I make it go? For me, I sit more towards the other side where I take your technology and help people understand why they need it, why it's beneficial to them, why it makes sense to do it, and help them understand like what the core of what it is, if that helps.
So if I simplify it by saying that copywriters, they write to sell, technical writers write to explain, and technical copywriters, they do both. Is that correct?
That's where I'd put it. Yep. I like to
Ex-
sit in the middle. Yep.
right in the middle. Excellent, excellent. And the other thing too, really, my experience has been that it can be very difficult sometimes to um, make sure that you do capture the right technical writing for a product or service. But then the hard part sometimes is translating all that information to get it into some type of a campaign, to be able to promote it, to sell it, to kind of make it real interesting and jazz it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, that aspect of, having the ability to do both is super critical. Is it rare to find that? Are they hard to find? Are more copywriters and less technical copywriters, or what do you see in the industry?
Yes. Yeah, it is hard to find. So if you look at the company journey really quick, you start off with the founders. This is what I've seen in most of the startups that I've worked with. You start with the founders, and the founders have like their short list of people. Because for a founder to come up with something, there has to be they have to think it's going to work, right? So they usually have a list of like a couple customers who kind of get the technology because they've spent that much time with the founder to get it, right? So they start launching things with those customers. Then they hit a wall because they can't expand because the rest of the market doesn't understand what the heck they're doing. The founder and his little group, they get it, and that's great. But then you hit that wall where you can't like actually explain things to the wider market and to customers and things like that. So that is where I tend to sit. That's where I see the value in coming in on that timeline, right? And you can see it kind of with a lot of different startups where that sort of thing happens.
Excellent, excellent. And James, I'm going to play a short video review regarding essential skills that this is more geared to copywriters that are coming out of school, that they should have going into the profession, going into the industries out there. If you could hold on 1 second. I hope that you're finding value in today's conversation with James Laurain. I recently read an interesting blog posted on inspiringinterns.com. It was titled 5 Essential Skills for a Copywriter, and I recommend that you check out this blog post after today's stream. On the blog, it focuses on the important skills necessary that new technical copywriters should have when entering into the business world. To summarize the 5 skills, they are: number 1, good grasp on spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Number 2, familiarity with different content management systems. Number 3, know a bit about search engine optimization, or SEO as it's known. Number 4, be creative with image software. And number 5, be comfortable with self-promotion. So after the stream ends, you'll find a link to this blog post in the comment section for this live stream, as well in the description of my stream's recording on my YouTube channel. Okay, now back to James to finish our conversation on the importance of copywriting in the age of digital transformation. So now let's cover who needs technical copywriters. In really looking at the different industries out there, it could be very wide open, but a lot of them are going to be more of the tech companies that manufacture equipment, or companies that sell equipment and services. What type of expertise do they need when it comes to technology?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna have to check out that blog you wrote about. I like point number 5 especially. We can talk about that one later. Yeah, so what I've seen for people who need it, again, your red flag is if your customer says, if you're getting feedback that your customers don't understand your product, and sometimes they don't come right out and say it. Sometimes you see it as a disengagement, right? Because I don't understand it, I'm not going to keep reading it. So you see a huge bounce rate, basically, where customers leave. It's actually a giant gesture of love if your customer says, I don't understand what the heck you're doing. Because 1, people don't like to admit that, and 2, they don't want to hurt your feelings. So it's great if somebody says that. But largely what you see is people aren't converting in the way that you thought they should, which is kind of a giveaway that they're not understanding it. I haven't done a lot with equipment as much, and I know your background too. That's kind of the area you're in. A lot of what I see right now is in the software space.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, so equipment is definitely a place where it can be differentiated. Software is another one, and the reason being, for example, like there's been an explosion of microbreweries in the U.S. And I've heard that there's a great legal Like it's a legal playground right now because, for example, in America there are 8 full kilt Scotch ales, right? And as soon as one brewery opens into another brewery's area, you have like this war of who is here first, and your logo looks like mine, and you have this product that looks like mine. Right now, SaaS, there are so many companies out there, and there are so many options out there for everything. Why on earth would I pick you? What makes you different? Do I want Slack? Do I want Asana? Are they the same? Are they different? We have WebEx, we have Teams, we have how many different you have Zoom? How many different platforms do you have? Right. So there's a million players out there, and they're all kind of fighting for the same thing. So if you get a technical copywriter, like a technical writer, they will explain to you how it works, and that might or might not be helpful, but it's up to you to extract the value. Do they have the thing I care about? You have to think about, what is it that I care about? Does this thing have it? It's a lot of mental load. If you get a true copywriter who does not have the ability to, bridge the gap, you basically end up sounding like everybody else. Meet with your friends online. Okay, well, does that help? And a lot of times what you can tell is you take that same headline and you remove the company branding and you say, who's this? And most people can't tell the difference, right? Is this Zoom? Is this Teams? Is this, who is this, right? So what on the technical side, the importance is to dig in to the product, understand the nuts and bolts of it to the right extent, and then incorporate that into the copy that makes it totally unique for that individual customer. So again, where I try to play is on those products where you do have to hunt a little bit to figure out, why is this important? Why is it special? The industry's crowded, that kind of thing. And then work on a rebrand kind of from that aspect.
Yeah, and my career background has been in sales and mostly in business development. So, I always look at things on the aspect of the marketing side and the sales and business development side. And a lot of the products and services and it's been primarily a lot of the industrial equipment in different industries. And, I've seen examples of very good technical writing, but I've also seen poor copywriting that's done where it just really doesn't seem to capture the essence or the importance of the equipment, and it can get lost in all that noise that's out there from the competition. In some of the other areas too, that especially now at this day and age, a lot of digital products that are available. You were talking about software, we were talking about IT equipment.
Mm-hmm.
The digital transformation that we're currently going through globally, and a lot of different industries are going through. How critical is it for them to get this copyright correct?
Yep, that's exactly what we were talking about. So as someone who does sales, the world is not yet opened up. So having a physical person at a location is harder than ever. People are doing things online more than ever. They're doing more, web meetings and things like that, down to events and more digital materials that are hitting customers' desks every day. So one thing I've been playing with lately and thinking about lately is just every time you do an ad, every time you send an email, you're interrupting somebody. So it's really got to be worth it. And people view value only as technical, and really it's not, because value can be humor. There's a million things that can be value that are interpreted as value to somebody else, whether, like I said, it's humor or it's quick tips that have nothing to do with the product necessarily, right? I gave a recipe for the perfect poached eggs. If you're into it, that's value. It has nothing to do with what I actually do, but it can help be endearing in some way. So to me, the world's kind of a playground right now, because everything's been shaken up, and I enjoy that to some extent, because we're able to do kind of things that we weren't able to do before, view the world in a different light, stand outside of it, and look at it in a couple ways. And so, yeah, the digital transformation, I think, has long been needed, and I'm kind of enjoying where that's going. I do want to mention, though, the actual human customer connection is so important, especially for marketing teams, because very often it doesn't happen. So marketing does all their stuff in a vacuum based on what they perceive a customer would be interested in. Meanwhile, sales is out there talking to actual customers, and they're talking about how the marketing is garbage. So it is so important, even though it's tough during this time. One thing I encourage a lot of marketers to do is a ride along, and now, because the world is digital, you can do a digital ride along. So when your salesperson sets up their call with the customer, ask to be a part of it and just sit in on it and just sit there and watch and listen, because the things that they say and the things that are important to them might be totally different than what you think they were. So I see a lot of positive with that digital transformation that is happening, and I think it's forcing us all to be better from the marketing side and the digital side, because you can't be lackluster and be solely driven by salespeople anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And everything's so instantaneous. It's you make one little critical mistake, and it can really impact your bottom line, and also too your reputation. For a professional, let's say for a company or an organization who's looking to qualify a technical copywriter, what are some of the things they should be looking for? What are some of the questions of the candidates should they be asking before they do a deal with them?
Yep. I think nothing speaks louder than work. So there's a couple different things. One is you kind of want to see a portfolio. You want to see what they've done, because everybody says everything, and it's actually kind of funny. I did a post about this and basically said, sell me your services in 5 words or less. And I'll say 80% of the copywriters wrote back and said, I make you money. Man, there has to be something better than that. Like, as far as, like, I get it. That's the end goal, but there's an interim step there that people are looking for. How do you make me money? Because anyone can say that, right? But not everyone actually does it. But looking at past work and trying to get an idea of what the voice is, what the tone is, what the person is comfortable with, because the last thing you want to do is hire a copywriter and then push them into something that they're not comfortable with. For example, I operate best under 3,000 words. So if you want me to write you a 30,000 word novel, it is going to suck. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be good, but it probably won't. And what's interesting is when I say a body of work or a portfolio, it's not always necessarily like a published portfolio, because I would say my LinkedIn posts are a lot more casual style than my actual published pieces, which you would expect, right? Because I'm writing for a company versus myself. But you kind of want to get an idea of that flair. 2 more things. One is I would set up an intro call. I would try to have that introduction call, and I would want it to be an ideation call. So you're going to watch for them to ask meaningful questions of you and your business to try to figure out, again, why are you special? Why are you unique in the field? Here's your competition. Why would I not use them? Right? When I get called for an intro call with a customer, I ask very hard or could sound mean questions. But sometimes it's, here's your competition. They do a lot better. Why on earth would I pick you? But I need to know that, because that's what turns into the best copy, right? So it's paying attention to having that intro call. What questions do they ask? What meaningful questions do they ask? Usually half the time I give away my best ideas on the call, but because I want to understand, am I in the ballpark or not? With that payment system customer as an example, I asked, why would anybody use you? Why is it important? The typical questions. And we ended up with something along the lines of, like, why don't the big guys use Square? And it does make you wonder, like, every little mom and pop shop uses Square, but none of the big companies do. Do they know something you don't? And we're able to frame that now for this company, if they want to use me, I don't know. But it's a very thought-provoking question that we're able to build out. So I would look for the body of work. I would have that intro call with them. And the other one is just general responsiveness, because you're going to have to reach out to this person and talk back and forth. This is something that people overlook really easily. You're going to have to communicate back and forth. You're going to have a deadline that you have to hit. And if you find somebody and it is difficult to get in contact with them, and I know it's funny because sometimes it is with me, if it's difficult to get in contact with them, that's not, because you're going to be nth hour and trying to get in contact with them, and they're not going to write back. So in general, one thing I look for that again is very important but often overlooked is just general responsiveness.
Yeah, I love your recommendations and tips there. And the other thing too, I see if you agree with me on it, is that you want to let your gut, after you have those conversations and that interaction, let your gut decide, because you're probably going to know in your stomach exactly, is this the right candidate or not.
Yep. Yeah, it is a feel thing, and that's what's funny, because I came from hard sciences, right? I came from hard science, hard math. It is what it is every time, except for electromagnetic compatibility, which we're not going to get there. But it is what it is every time. 2, copy, which is a lot perception. So a lot of times it's funny because of my background. When I write something, I will include notes and comments that justify why. Here is why I worded it. Like, you might not like this, but here is why this is this way. And I've had a lot of talks with people. Well, why did you take it this way? Because, and I have that justification with it. But yes, it is a lot. It is a lot of gut feel when you make that decision, because you're going to need to work closely with them throughout the whole process, very closely.
And a question came over from a statement here from Nelson Dela Cruz, who's with Info Corrosion. There's a lack of copywriters in the industry, at least in the Latin America countries, and it becomes a big opportunity for those who want to get into the industry. And that's the point. The conversation that we're having, we're not only looking at a domestic, let's say, use of technical copywriters, but also there's an international aspect of it. And now that we're going through digital transformation, and we're moving into more of the digital economies, we're now talking about dealing with technical aspects that have to transcend into different types of languages, cultures, and business, let's say different styles of businesses too, when it comes globally.
And there was a question in there. It wasn't worded as a question, but I thought it was interesting. At the last sentence, it said, by the other hand, some or most of the companies don't find value in the technical copywriting.
Yeah.
So what I have done generally is I play a pretty much inbound game. So if somebody would like to hire me, they need to reach out to me. I don't chase people, and I am blessed to be in that position where I do not have to chase people who don't see the value in it. But really, you can burn a lot of BTUs reaching out to companies and trying to tell them it's important. That never works. You want people to realize it's important and then come to you. And I realize that's harder. So let's go a step back. For people who don't have that luxury, the best thing I found is questions. So the question that works for me most of the time is I ask people if they like their website copy, and they say no. Another great question is, what's your bounce rate off your website? Bounce rates are always high. Even with great copy, they're always high, but it's awesome because you kind of want a question that they're going to say yes to, or that they're going to realize there's a problem. Is your bounce rate higher than you want it to be on your website? Yeah. Or how many customers leave your website without buying anything, right? And if you're like most companies, it's like 80%, 90%, without converting. It's a huge number. So, how many visitors do you get from it? How many people are going to your site not buying anything? Like, when you ask those questions, people start to realize, maybe I could improve this, right? So just some things for Nelson to think about. If you love when they come to you. The best thing is when they come to you in referrals, because then they realize they have a problem. If you're trying to educate them of the problem, always with questions and always with things where you kind of know the answer. And really, let's say you say, how many people bounce off your site? And they go, nobody. Everyone buys. Well, great. You don't need me then. So I'm out. See you later. So that would be kind of some advice on how to convert some new business.
Excellent. James, before we close out today's broadcast, let me cover next week's guest. Next Wednesday at noon Eastern Daylight Time, I'll have a interview with Sarge Summers, who's the founder and president of Oilfield Connections International. We're going to talk about OCI and its mission related to oil and gas industry, professional development, networking, and all kind of good things that the organization is doing currently internationally, which is amazing for an association that started relatively, I think, 2 years ago. So Wow. It's an amazing story, and Sarge will be here to have a great conversation with everybody, and hopefully lots of great questions for him as well. James, in closing out, how do people get in contact with you other than LinkedIn?
Other than LinkedIn, the best thing is my email. So this is actually kind of funny because I have my domain, and I've been ready to pull the trigger on a website. Being a copywriter, there's a whole lot of pressure to write your own website. You know what I mean? It has to be like so dang good, and I haven't done that yet. I have several things in the works that will be published soon, but I don't mind. I only wish that I could chat back to everybody. But my personal email, which you're all welcome to email me at, is jamestechcopywriting@gmail.com. So again, it's jamestechcopywriting. jameslorain@gmail.com. LinkedIn is obviously the best way. I do own jameslorain.com, but again, I just haven't slotted anything there. And I do have one digital product out. I have a lot that I should be working on. Thankfully, again, client work has been so huge that I haven't been able to catch up on that yet. And then, as we mentioned, I'll announce it here first. I'm sneakily rolling out a WhatsApp group that will be basically my time helping get newer copywriters up and running and started with clients. I want to preview other people's work to help them, like client work that they're working on that I can help them with. I want to help them with pricing. I just helped one person and coached him. He was going to charge a certain amount. I encouraged him to charge 5 times as much because I thought that was reasonable. The customer accepted it, no questions asked. The guy just made 5 times what he thought he was going to make on a piece of work. So that will be rolling out in the future. But again, LinkedIn is the best way. Email works too. I check everything. I am on Twitter at the James Laurain, but I have like 8 followers, so I wouldn't. That's just my random musings end up on there. But yeah, any of those channels.
Yeah, and the my recommendation for you on the WhatsApp group is Nelson De La Cruz, who posted the comment there, and you answered that. He runs for Info Corrosion, a very successful WhatsApp group, so he might be somebody you really want to maybe connect with on LinkedIn and talk a little bit about that as well. Heidi Brooke she wants to join your group. Your
Send me a
WhatsApp
message.
group.
I'm trying to set it up. I know I don't even have a background picture yet, right? And this is another lesson, right? The perfect is the enemy of the good, right? You have to launch. So important.
Yeah, definitely got to do it. James, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity, and hopefully you and I can get back together again, talk about that WhatsApp group, talk about your amazing website that you're going to be building and putting out there soon, and then also catch up on any changes that have happened with technical copywriting. So greatly appreciate this opportunity today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a good day.
Yep, you as well.